All right. Well, we're really pleased to have Cal Toth. I'm not sure if everyone knows Cal, but Cal is the manager of, he's going to have to tell his title.
Classroom and AV production.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Everybody will see Cal around campus, I'm sure, helping out with all of the technical stuff or computer stuff that we need. So we are lucky to have him here at the university, and I know Cal's got a pretty interesting story to tell, so I'll turn it over to you.
Well,
Thank you.
thanks. I don't know how interesting it is, but sorry. Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Well, thanks everybody for coming and taking part in this, whatever this turns out to be. Yeah, you know, when I agreed to do this, I'm sorry if I look at my notes a lot. I mean, I know the story, but I don't know the, you know. When I agreed to do this, I really thought this was going to be easy. I thought it was going to be, well, you know, I started running, I started taking care of myself, and that's it. And it wasn't until I sat down to start to write the story that I realized that there was really a lot to this, and my weight loss was just part of a bigger picture of a big life change for me. So my talk on wellness, while it seems crazy, it's something I think I can probably give some value to. So let's talk with a little history. I grew up the little skinny kid in school. My nickname was Toothpick. And I was always the skinny guy. I stayed skinny pretty much most of the way through my 20s and 30s. And for those of you that didn't know, I was a musician in my past life, a full-time musician. I traveled through the US and through Canada, playing in bands, and I didn't really take care of myself. You know, it was just junk food and beer and junk food and pop and Slurpees, and that was just the norm, and that's how we lived, you know, every day. I was also a pack-a-day smoker. You know, I was in the clubs and bars playing most every night, and like I say, drinking, smoking, playing music. It was the norm. The only exercise I ever remember getting was playing tennis with my buddy Mike. And when I say playing tennis, it was more like he would serve the ball and it would go whip past by me, and I'd go run and chase the ball and grab it, and I'd serve it back to him, and then he'd serve it back to me, and I'd go running and chasing the ball because I was really not very good. And that was really the only exercise I ever got for decades. And you know, so anyway, as I got older, I realized that, you know, this was a lot of fun, but life was kind of passing me by, and so I decided it was time for a change, and I was missing things that really meant the most to me, you know, being at home with my family. So I gave it up, moved back to Lethbridge, and took a job at the university. So here I am. So I'm going to back it up just a bit. We're going to go back to 1999 while I was still on the road playing with my bands. And I remember being on the band bus, and I was presented with a very unique opportunity. The drummer in the band, he was sitting on the bus with us, and he pulled out a box from his bag, and he said, "Hey, does anybody want these, or I'm going to throw these out?" And I looked, and it was a 14-week box of nicotine patches, and he said, "I'm not going to use them." He says, "The doctor gave them to me a year ago." And this one, he still had to get a prescription for patches, and I think they were about $600 or $700 worth at that time. So I don't know what possessed me. I don't know what, you know, I wasn't thinking about quitting smoking. It wasn't anything that was even on my radar. I was blissfully, you know, going through life smoking cigarettes. But in that moment, I said, "Sure, I'll take them. I'll give it a try." And so I went home. I got to the hotel that night and smoked my cigarettes, and, you know, did everything that I normally do. And I woke up the next morning, and instead of having that cigarette like I'd done for 25 years or more, I put on a patch, and I didn't have that cigarette. And I looked at my pack of cigarettes, and it was almost a full pack, I remember. And I threw them in the trash can in the hotel room. And I just looked at them in there in the trash can for a second. I thought, oh, I guess I'm really doing this. And I went about my day. I went and set up for the show that night, and which is the first time I'd ever set up equipment without a cigarette in my hand, so that was kind of unusual. But the interesting thing is, at the end of the day, because I'd managed to get through the whole day without having a cigarette, which in Yorkton, Saskatchewan, when you play a casino, is not that easy because it's just smoke. It's one big haze, and everybody you see there smokes. I think it was mandatory. I left after the show to go to another bar to watch a friend of mine play in their band. And I said, I'm not going to change my habits. I don't want to give up the things that I'm doing now because I'm not smoking. So I forced myself to do all these things that I was going to do, that I would normally do. I went out and had my beers, and and I'd go shoot pool and do all these things that I was doing in the club, but I was doing it without a cigarette in my hand. And I just wanted to get what that felt like, what it was like to do all these things. And I made it through the night without a cigarette, and I woke up the next morning, and I remember thinking that, wow, I went a day without a cigarette. I've never gone a day without a cigarette in in 25 years. And so I put the nicotine patch on, and I looked at those cigarettes in the trash can again. I said, no. I would look at these every time, and I would acknowledge that they were there. I wouldn't ignore that they were there. I would acknowledge that they were there, and I said, no, I beat you. And I looked at them for 4 or 5 days, however long we were there. It was a few days before I finally left town, and I left those cigarettes there, and I never looked back. But and it turns out that years later, that experience of quitting smoking would play a big part of my weight loss journey as well. I remember talking to my buddy, and he was convinced I was never going to use these patches. He said, "Dude, I thought you were just going to throw these away." So, and I never finished those the patches. I was on the patch for, I think, 5. No, I don't even think I made it through the 6th week. After 5 weeks, I realized that, okay, look, I'm not smoking now. I don't need this. I don't need patches. I threw it away, and I just resigned myself to never smoking again. And that was February 19th, 1999. So, yeah, that was a big change for me. And as it turns out, I think that getting older and quitting smoking and all these things contributes to weight gain, which I didn't really notice for years. And it wasn't until I'd passed 200 pounds that I went, uh-oh, this is not what I'm used to being. But by that time, I didn't care. I was comfortable. I had a good job at university. I was married. The kids and the dog and everything. I was happy. I was happy in my life. So I really wasn't unhappy with my weight. So it was 2011 when things started to make a change for me, and it was an important year for me because that was the year my best friend passed away. And well, without getting into it, he was a source of inspiration for me, continues to be a source of inspiration for me. And so his name will come up in this story from time to time, so I thought I'd just share that with you. Well, Mike was a musician. We were band guys together. And so when he passed away, it was fairly sudden, and his wife and his son, my godson, were kind of left stranded. So the band community, though the bands that he'd played with out in Vancouver and here in Lethbridge and elsewhere, we all decided we were going to get together and have a fundraiser for the family to make some money. And we thought, okay, this is a great idea. So what happened is we ended up getting all these bands together that hadn't been together for years and even decades. Our old band from the 80s that we used to travel with, we reunited that night, and I hadn't seen these guys in 15 years or probably more, 20 years maybe. And I remember seeing him for the first time going, wow, it's so good to see you. And it was great, and we were having a great time. And for the first time, I felt awkward. I felt ashamed of what I looked like, because I'd realized, I'd ballooned past 220 pounds. And this is not what they were used to seeing. They remember Skinny Cal, and and here I was, and I just remember them shaking my hand and giving us a big hug, and I'm thinking they're giving me the eyes and going, yeah, what happened to you? And so for the first time, I'd really felt uncomfortable with the way I looked. I mean, I was just starting. I'm a dueling piano player now. I was just starting the dueling piano show, and so I was on stage every weekend again, and I felt a little uncomfortable on stage, but never really enough to do anything about it. But that really resonated with me, being around these people that weren't used to seeing me big. That really stuck with me. So it took about a year. It took about a year, because this is what I looked like. That's what I'd looked like. That's my godson there. I think that's 2000. That's 2011. So I won't leave that up. I can't stand looking at it. So about a year later, spring of 2012, I just finally had enough. I don't know what I don't know what it was. I don't think it was a single action. I think it was just like that nicotine patch box, just something intangible just happened, and I said, okay, no, I just don't want to do it anymore. Tomorrow's going to be a new start. So the next morning, I committed to change. I said, okay, whatever I was doing before is not going to be what I do anymore. I started counting calories that morning. I started looking at what I was eating. And I had a breakfast, which is something else that I hadn't had in I don't even know how long. It was years. It was very sporadic breakfast at best. So I decided to start counting calories. I read somewhere online that 1,500 calories is what I should be trying to maintain to lose weight. I just read that. I did a little quick Google search, and so I said, okay, 1,500 calories. Okay, I can do that. So I went and had a breakfast, a little bowl of cereal, and then I don't even remember what I had for lunch, but I remember just having smaller portions and keeping under that 1,500 calories. And I thought, wow, okay, I can do this. I did that for one day, and it was a little painful because you're not really used to it. But again, I was really focused in committed to making this change. So I saw it through the first day, and I remember talking to my wife and saying, I gotta step this up. It's not enough. I gotta start exercising. So what am I going to do? Very next morning, I started running. I didn't run. I mean, I started going outside and moving. Why did I pick running? Well, two reasons. Mike, years earlier, had taken up running when he was a little overweight, and he would constantly tell me how much he enjoyed being on his runs, and I didn't get it at the time. I get it now, and it worked for him. He was able to lose weight. And he liked it. The other reason was that it was cheap, and easy. It's something I could do. I'm athletically very awkward, so running seemed to be something I could probably do without really hurting myself or others, or so. So I remember going around. It was around Heritage, our little community there. It was about a kilometer and a half, I think I went, and it took about 20 minutes for me to walk around, just to see if I could do it. And I did it in the morning. I woke up and did it because I found out really fast that my day is already full. I've already accounted for almost every minute and every day of my life. So if I was going to do this, I have to expand my day, and I can't stay up later. So I woke up earlier. So now instead of sleeping until 7 o'clock or 6:45, I was getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go do my runs, and it worked, and it was great. I was able to maintain that. I was working at the teaching center at the time, and I remember Glenda gave me one of those Couch to 5K programs. because I told her I started running and I just don't know what to do. She goes, well, here, do this. And so I read it, and it says, walk for 3 minutes, run for a minute, walk for 3, and finally it'll, you end up not walking anymore, you just run. I said, well, it's too slow for me. So after a couple days of doing that, I kind of tossed that aside and had my own ideas. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to run 10 seconds longer every day. So I'm going to run for 2 minutes, and I'm going to walk for a minute. And then the next time I'm going to run for 2 minutes and 10 seconds, and then I'm going to walk for 50 seconds. And then I'm going to walk for 2 minutes and 40 seconds, and then I'm going to walk for 30 seconds. And I did that quite rapidly, and I sort of forced myself to go further than I wanted to. I really pushed my limits. I pushed the envelope, and it worked. I was able to start running, well, slow jog, within 5 or 6 weeks. I think I'd stopped walking altogether, and it was about the end of September, the beginning of October, I think, when the weather started getting a little chilly. I went for a morning run, and it was a little cold. And I said, I don't like this. I don't like running in the cold. I'm not like Colin. I know Colin likes the cold. I don't like the cold. So I said, okay, well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go join the gym. I've never joined a gym in my life. Okay, but I'll try the gym. We got one here. It's at the university. It's cheap. It's good. So I decided to join the gym, and people are saying, yeah, you know what? You're used to running outside. You're going to hate the treadmill. And I said, well, maybe I'll hate the treadmill. It looks like something I'll hate. But I said, I'll give it a try. So you know what? I threw some songs on my iPod, went on the treadmill, and I remember the first couple times running and not knowing how fast I'm supposed to put this thing. And I see people running beside me, and they're like, it's 7.6 miles an hour. Okay, well, I'll start at 6.6 miles an hour, because I was still pretty big, right? I was still probably 200 pounds. I'd only lost 15 pounds by this time. So I started my slow run, and it was okay. I didn't mind it. And they have TVs there, so I could watch Sports Center. So it's kind of killing two birds with one stone. So now, which now has become my morning ritual, is I get all my sports there, and sometimes I'll stay a little longer on the treadmill if I need to catch some updates. So that's kind of helpful too. It turns out that the run is some good me time. It's really the only me time I have. I don't have to, I put my headphones in and I lock myself in. I don't have to worry about work. I don't have to worry about, fixing anything at home. I don't have to worry about anything. I don't think about anything except maybe the music. The music plays a big, huge part in my runs and in really everything. To the point where I think it's, well, we'll talk about it later about how the music affects my running. So the treadmill, when I started running on the treadmill, I remember, like I said, I started at about 6.6 miles an hour, and I did bump it up a little bit until I hit about 7 miles an hour by the end of the runs. And I was feeling pretty good. And so what I would do is I would step it up a little bit. I would incrementally start my runs 1/10 of a mile an hour faster after a week. Every week I would bump up 1/10 of a mile. But also, every couple of weeks, I would add another song onto my playlist, because I think I was 7 or 8 songs on my iPod or whatever, and I grew that at the time probably to 11 songs. Now I run with 12 songs for however many miles that is. So I don't run for a set period of time. I let the music dictate how long it is I run. And so if I'm listening to 12 long songs, it's going to be a really long run. And if I listen to 12 short songs, typically what will happen is I'll just throw a couple extra songs on there anyway. By the end of 2012, I had gone from 200, and I think the official weight that I clocked in the morning before I started was 218 or 219. And I was down at the end of the year to 170. Somewhere in that neck of the woods. It was around the end of the year. I don't remember if it was just before Christmas or just after Christmas. I remember that holiday. I stayed committed to my diet. I stayed to the 1,500 calories. We had a great dinner. I had some turkey. I had a little bit of this, but I'm pretty sure I stayed pretty close to my 1,500 calories. But what happened in the next year? The 2013, well, that was the big year, because I'd realized that I was actually shedding weight, and so that became really addictive to me. So I went the next step. I was making sure I was eating perfectly, and I made sure I stepped up my runs. By the end of January, February, I was running 8 to 8.5 miles an hour. So I think the pace of a mile of that is about 7 minutes and 50 seconds or something. I can't remember, but it was quicker than I ever thought I was going to run on the treadmill. And so I thought, okay, this is cool. This is cool. I'm getting up there. And by the spring, I was down. Well, I should tell you, for the first time in the new year, I never set a goal. I never said, okay, I want to be X pounds by such and such a time. All I said is I want to make a change. I want to lose weight. I didn't force myself to say, okay, I've got to lose so much by such and such a time. All I cared about was that it was slowly coming off. So if I would weigh myself every day, and if I stayed the same, okay. If I went down, bonus. If I went up a little bit, there's nothing really to freak out about, because I'll weigh myself tomorrow and I'm sure I'll be down again. And I was. So I said, okay, well, where's this ride going to stop? Where am I going to, what should I be working towards? And so I decided 155 pounds is the one. And I thought, well, that's a little thin. That's a little thin. And I thought, no, I'm a skinny guy. And so 155 seems about right. So I set that for my goal. And I hit that goal, I think, by the end of February. It happened really fast. So I was down to 155 by February of 2013, from 220 pounds 6 months before. So it was a radical change. I had a lot of people, some people were congratulating me and saying, wow, you look great. Some people were genuinely concerned about me, asking me, well, are you okay? Is everything all right? I was talking to my hairdresser yesterday, and she says, I remember asking you, because I thought you were sick. I thought something was really wrong with you, and then when you told me that you were healthy, she goes, I just hated you. That was around the same time our family took a trip over to Hungary, and I said, wow, what, I'm going to Hungary, and I've been watching what I eat. I've been 1,500 calories. There's just no way I could do this in Hungary. And so what I said is, okay, I'm going to shut it off. I'm just going to take a break, and I'll deal with whatever consequences come of being away for 2 weeks, eating whatever I want. And I did. I went and I ate some great food, and I drank some great beer, and I drank some more great beer. And because that was something else I'd given up for a long time. I hadn't had beer, so when that was something that was really good to have again. And I didn't think about it. I was still running there, by the way. I went for some epic runs. I went running up and down the Danube. I think it was about an 11-mile run one morning, and it was breathtaking. I was going to send some pictures, but I didn't. So I came back from Hungary, and I was up 3 pounds. And I think it was less than a week before it was off again. So I mean, it really made no significant difference to my weight at all, just by taking care of myself or by indulging myself. I allowed myself to do it. I was still taking care of myself. I was still running. I was still doing these things. I was just having to work a little harder when I came home. back to 1,500 calories instead of, 2,000 or 2,500 calories, which is what I'd gone back to by the time. Because once I hit 155, I didn't want to keep losing weight, so you gotta start eating a little more. So I come back, and on one of my trips to Vegas, I go to Vegas occasionally, once in a while. I remember hearing about the Las Vegas half marathon there, and I thought, wow, half marathon. I wonder if I could do a half marathon. I didn't know, and the only thing I had to go off of was that run on the Danube where I'd run about 11 miles. And I thought, well, I could probably do this. So I signed up for the marathon. I signed up for the half marathon, and I said, okay, now I've got another goal. I'm going to run a half marathon. I'm going to run a half marathon. Uh-oh, can I do this? And I remember because I'm used to running 10K or 11K. I think I was up to about 11K at that time. And I didn't know. I didn't know if I could run that or not. So about a month before the race, I said, I better see if I can actually do this. I put a predicted finish time of 2 hours, only because somebody said, well, 2 hours, that should be about how long a half marathon takes. And I said, okay. So I put 2 hours on my sheet. And so I was running around the neighborhood and ran up and down the west side. And I finished the 13 miles, so 13.1 or 13.2 miles, in 1:43. I thought, oh, okay, I could probably do this. It hurt. It hurt. I'm not gonna lie. I'd never run that far before, and unlike when I'd run that far in Hungary, I didn't really have it wasn't as breathtaking. I'm running through Heritage, which I'd seen a million times, so it wasn't quite as impacting. So I said, okay, I guess I can do it. So I had them switch my predicted finish time to 1:45. So I went from being in this back corral to being close to the front. I think I was in the 6th corral. So I guess that's good. I don't know. I didn't know. I had nothing to compare it to. I'd never run a marathon before. I'd never, So when I got to the marathon start line, I thought, well, okay, I'll just look around, do whatever everybody else is doing, and the gun goes off, and so you kind of start running, and am I going too fast? Am I going too slow? You got some people that are getting by you and jockeying for position, and I was pretty crowded. Felt pretty crowded, and when I'm used to being on a treadmill or being by myself on the west side, it takes a little getting used to. But so I slowed it down a little bit and let everybody pass, so I could just gotta have a little room, and that seemed to work out quite well for me. So that's what I do for all my marathons now. I just kind of sit back, let everybody pass me, and then go. I finished that marathon in 1:41 and change. I thought, wow, that's not bad. That's not bad. It's better, considering I never really knew what to expect. And that was in the top 4% of the entire finishers. And I think I was 50th in my age division. So I was 47 years old, and I ran a half marathon. 2 years ago, or 2 years before that, I couldn't walk a flight of stairs, and so it was a big change for me. And so I immediately, I think I was just past the finish line, and I was elated, and I remember telling my wife, I said, I want to do this again next year. So she says, okay, we'll do it again next year. Well, that didn't quite work out the way I planned. I trained really hard that next year, and I remember I had a great pace. I was looking at, as I was going to prepare for this, I was looking at some of my runs leading up to that year, and the month before, there were runs. I was going on 10 or 12K runs where my speed was under 7 minutes for a mile pace, which, I mean, for me was amazing. I didn't think that was even possible. But so I was ready. I was geared. Excuse me. So 22 days, 23 days before the start of the race, I was coming down a flight of stairs at in the UCA, and I caught one of the stairs a little weird, and I remember it hurt a little bit, you know, and I remember I was running to the boardroom. I was videotaping in the boardroom. So I was running, I was trying to run, and I was limping a little bit, and I'm going, okay, well, we'll just shake it off, it'll be better. And it kind of felt a little bit better by the time the end of the day rolled around, but I didn't run the next day. It was an off day that this happened, so it was it was a run day that this happened, so it was an off day the next day. So I thought, okay, well, it's good, I get a day rest. I'll run the next day. I don't think I ran that day. It felt a little uncomfortable, so I listened to my leg and said, okay, I'm not going to run. I went to go see a sports med doctor, a sports medicine specialist, which I thought was just weird. 3 years before that, I thought the only doctor I'd see was a cardiologist. And this guy was telling me, you know, he's specialized in runner's injuries, and what had happened is I'd torn my myotendons, which is just above the Achilles. And he said it was a partial tear. It'll probably work itself out. He said, but you know, if you're experiencing pain, don't run. If you don't experience pain, or you know, if you think you can run, yeah, you can run through it. He said, go for it. So I did. I did just that. I took it easy. I babied my leg, and then I remember going to the start line in the second year. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I don't feel any pain. This is okay. This is good. It's promising. I started running, and I went, wow, this is really good. Okay, I'm feeling really good. I remember the music's playing, and I'm going, this is great tunes. And I passed the Las Vegas sign, and I'll go, okay. And as soon as you pass the Las Vegas sign at the Las Vegas Half Marathon, you end up going around the boulevard, and that's where the big turnaround is. So I was heading south, and I had just come around, and I was turning north, and I go, I can still hear this. And I kind of heard a bit of a snap as I was coming out of it, going north. And I ran, I took about 2 steps, and as soon as I put my weight back on this foot, I buckled. I hit the ground. And I thought, wow, this is like, you know, I remember thinking, this is what happens on TV, you know, I feel like I'm walking, the Jim Thorpe thing, you know. And I got up, and I said, okay, I'll shake it off. Maybe it's just you know. So I tried jogging, and I made it, you know, 20 feet. And I said, okay, this is not going the way I planned. And so I looked for a first aid place, and they don't have any. You know, nobody's gonna need first aid in the first mile, right? This was 1.1 miles into the race, and so I hobbled back to the hotel, and I limped through the rest of the trip in Vegas. And when I got home, saw the sports med guy. Yeah, I said it's bad. It's a bad tear. So they put me in a boot for 4 months. I couldn't run. I couldn't walk. Couldn't drive. And it was awful. And it was 6 months before I was even able to start running again. And when I was running, I had to go back to 6.6 miles an hour for 20 minutes. And you know, it felt like I was starting over again. And that was tough. But I'd already signed up for the year after. So I'd signed up for 2015. So I said, you know what, this is going to be better. I'm going to get through this. And I did. I managed to get back up to a pace where I could run again. I felt a lot better for the 2015, and I thought I was going to break my old record. Didn't even come close. I finished in 1:47 or something like that, and I barely finished. I don't think I was going to finish. I ran out of steam about 12 miles in, and if it wasn't for this guy that intervened behind me, and he saw that I was struggling, and he just gave me a pat on the back. He says, "Don't worry, man, you got this. You got this." And I said, "Yeah, I got this. I got this." And it was really what I needed at the time, and it worked. It helped quite a bit. So I've since run 4 marathons. I've managed to keep most of my weight off. It's gone up and down. I think I'm about 7 or 8 pounds off my mark right now, but that's okay. It comes and goes. I have to let it ebb and flow because one of my keys is I'm not going to sacrifice everything all the time. I have to indulge myself once in a while. I have to be able to enjoy life. I have to be able to have a beer or have whatever, or chicken wings or whatever it is I want. But one of the few tips or tricks that I use to maintain where I'm at is to remember that everything I do is a conscious decision. I don't succumb to just eating food because it's there. If I put something in my hand to eat, I know what I'm doing. I realize it's a conscious decision. Okay, if I'm eating this eclair or whatever they put out at, Aramark puts all this yummy stuff out, I know that that's probably a third of my calories and twice my sugar intake for the day. So, I'm going to have to do something about that, or I'm going to end up 8 or 9 pounds overweight again. But if I go in knowing what I'm doing and making that conscious decision, then I know that I need to make those corrections, and I need to make up for it, which I do. I say, okay, well then tomorrow I'm not going to have whatever, a second cup of coffee or whatever it is that that I have to do to make that adjustment, just so I can make sure that I stay on pace and stay on track. And for the most part, it works. When I go to Vegas, and I go to Vegas sometimes, I do what I did in Hungary, and that's to say, okay, all bets are off. I'm just going to go and I'm going to enjoy myself. I'm on holidays. I'm going to buffets and beers and whatever they have there in Vegas. I'm going to indulge, and I'll come back and I'll and I'll do what I have to do. Go back down to 1,500 calories. Go run that extra mile, and it always works. It always works. Hasn't let me down yet. So. One of the things is to find whatever motivational poster or phrase, whatever it is. Find that one that resonates with you and sticks with you. Mine was Rocky was going one more round when you don't think you can. That's what makes all the difference. And my hairdresser had a different one yesterday that it's like her mantra. She says it over and over and over again, and it helps her do whatever she needs to do. So find that motivational poster, because we've all got one somewhere. I prefer to face my adversaries. I prefer to look at that junk food right in the eye and say, no, I'm not gonna. Part of me was forced to do that. I mean, I'm thinking back to those cigarettes in the trash can. I walked by those cigarettes 20 times a day for 4 days when I quit smoking. Every time I would look at them and say, no, I'm not going to have them. I'm not going to do it. Same thing with the junk food. I will not hide junk food in the house. We got 3 kids that they love junk food, right? And I'm not going to deprive them of that. So one of my sons loves cookies, loves Safeway cookies. I love cookies. I love Safeway cookies. He puts them out there and he taunts me with them. It's like Bishop, he's going to have it today. And I just say no. But you know what? It strengthens your resolve. It really does. Every time you make that conscious decision to say no to the cookies or the junk food that's staring you right in the face, it just makes you go, yeah, I got this. I had one of my favorite soft drinks, A&W cream soda, that I had to get from the States. I remember having 2 cans of it in my fridge for 2 years, maybe longer, until I realized, it's probably not good anyway, so I tossed it. But for the most part, it was there as a reminder that I don't need you anymore. But I see you 10 times a day. So I prefer to face those, because I think facing the things that you're saying no to will make you stronger, and make things a lot easier. And like I say, I allowed myself to indulge once in a while. Don't Super Bowl Sunday, Grey Cup, Vegas. I let myself enjoy life, and then I make the commitment to make those changes after the fact. I'm not kidding myself, because I don't believe in cheating. I don't think that it's a cheating thing, because you can't fool yourself, right? You can't lie to yourself. So I don't think that there's it's cheating. It's maybe denial, but. One of the things I think is important is to talk about your achievements. Talking about things that you do. I post my runs on Facebook and Twitter every morning. Why? It's not because I care that everybody, I think everybody cares that I'm running. It's to keep me honest. It's to say, okay, I'm going to do this. And I think the expectation that it's always there, that if I miss one and it's not there, I'll sort of feel like the set isn't complete. I don't know. And remember that it's a long game. I weigh myself every day. I don't go down, or I didn't go down every day. A couple of times I went up, but I stayed the course. I didn't do anything to waver me away from staying the long game. Lastly, sorry, this might be running on a little long, but that's okay. The big thing for me when I was running was the music, and I just wanted to address the music a little bit, because that's, it's such a big part of my runs. The songs are like my friends. That's sort of how I look at most of these songs. I make new friends. I listen to new songs. I think I got Bieber in my set list somewhere. I got Justin Timberlake. I got Katy Perry. I listened to Katy Perry this morning. I was like, yeah. But the old classic rock tunes. That's really what motivates me to run. I remember I load up my song list the night before a run, and that alone makes me want to go go to the gym and work out, because I can't wait to hear this song. I haven't heard this song in 15 years, or I'll be playing with a band and they're learning this song, and wow, I haven't heard it. I got to listen to this song, and I have an emotional connection to the music, and it really motivates me to go out and run. So the bigger picture there is you really need to enjoy the time that you're going out if you're exercising or doing whatever it is you're doing. I'm sure I wouldn't enjoy my runs if I wasn't listening to music. In fact, I could tell you I wouldn't enjoy them. I tried running once watching TV, I think watching an episode of SNL, and it hurt. It hurt because I was thinking about running. I wasn't thinking about the music. The music was a nice distraction from the pain. So listening to the music, it's great. It's great for me because it gives me a chance to learn songs, give me a chance to reunite myself with a lot of the music. But I think, like I say, the important thing is to make sure that we enjoy the time that we spend working out. So there's that. So, yeah, I guess that's everything. Here I am. So there you go. Is that okay? So.